Hi, folks. Happy Monday again. This week, we're talking more about reinforcement or rewarding your dog and how to get more out of your training by making choices about how, when, where you reinforce. So, today, we're talking about choosing what to use as your reinforcer. All right, so we'll review, and this is a review from last week. What factors influence how effective your rewards are, your training rewards, how to choose what you're going to use in training. And then we have a cute little sort of Easter themed scent work example for you. All right, so just a review of reinforcer effectiveness. What affects it? Well, a delay to reinforcement matters. If you wait too long after a behavior to deliver your treat or whatever it is you're using, the behavior you want to reinforce might not be reinforced. It's best to follow up right away after the behavior you want to strengthen. The dog's preference for the reinforcer, is it something they love, something that's meh? How does it compare to the dog's preference for other reinforcers that might be in the environment? Often we think of these as distractions, but they're another way to think about them as competing reinforcers. Magnitude, are you giving enough of the reinforcer to make it worth the dog's while to do the behavior you want? Giving them enough of a treat, or, if it's, say, a game of tug or something, are you playing enough of the game with them to make it reinforcing? Your rate of reinforcement, make sure that in early training, skill acquisition, you're teaching your dog new things, that you're reinforcing as close as you can to every single time they do the behavior you want. Deprivation or satiation. So basically, how much of this reward or reinforcer has your dog had access to recently? If they've had a lot, they may be kind of satiated on that reinforcer, and so it won't be as valuable. Or if they haven't had it in a while, they might be a bit deprived of it, and that'll make it a more powerful reinforcer. Variation matters. We'll look at that today in our scent work example. But there is evidence that varying reinforcers within a training session can increase the effectiveness of your reinforcers. So you can even sometimes get better results if you have several different sort of medium level preference reinforcers, like, say, treats that your dog likes but doesn't love. You can sometimes get better results if you have a bunch of those and vary them than if you just use a single really high value reinforcer. As far as I know, there's not. Someone can correct me if they know better. I don't know that there's anyone's done a study on that in dogs, but there's evidence from studies in humans. All right, history with that reinforcer matters. Again, if we talked about this last week, but if your dog has, say, been getting something quote unquote for free, or without you having any kind of big demand that the dog has to fulfill, or a cue, whatever, a behavior they have to do to get that reinforcer in the past, and now you're making this reinforcer contingent on a difficult behavior, the training might not go very well. It might be hard to use that reinforcer in training. Delivery method, more fun or interactive delivery method might make a reinforcer more reinforcing, or the reinforcement process more effective. And novelty. If you've got something new, a new treat, a new toy, a lot of times you get a boost in value, at least temporarily. So it'll be a more effective reinforcer, at least for a little bit. All right, just a reminder, if you have questions while we're going through this stuff, go ahead and put them under the video wherever you're watching this, and I will get to it. All right, so this week, thinking about what you want to use for reinforcement in your training. So what to use. Here we have a variety of meats and cheeses in the photo. Probably a lot of these wouldn't actually make great or healthy reinforcers for your dog, but you get the idea. You want something that is high quality, something your dog really likes, especially if you're asking something that's pretty difficult for your dog. You do have to give enough of the reinforcer. So it is, in fact, reinforcing, acts as a reinforcer. More might not always be better, but you do need to give enough. There may be a tiny amount of a treat that your dog just won't work for. So make sure you're using enough of whatever it is you have in your treat bag. Varying reinforcers can increase their value. In part, this may be due to reducing satiation on individual reinforcers. So, for instance, if you have a bag of string cheese bits, and that's all you're using for the whole training session, the dog might get sick of it like 20 minutes in. Well, some of your dogs would never get sick of it, but some dogs would start to get a little bit sick of it after a while. It just wouldn't be as valuable to them. Whereas if you had a mixed bag of different cheeses, maybe some meat, whatever, you might be less likely to reach a point of satiation in the training session. So that would keep your dog's motivation high and their performance high. You can include, if you're varying your reinforcers, a lot of time you can include some things that are a bit less preferred in your treat bag, or if you're using toys, in your toy bag, I guess. It could be something that maybe by itself, your dog, it wouldn't be good enough for this training session, but mixed in with a variety of other things, it can still work as a reinforcer. And you can decide whether you want to vary which reinforcer you pull out randomly, just like grab bag, no matter how your dog does, and that's fine. Or you can try to preferentially use the really best stuff, the stuff that your dog likes best, to try to reinforce your dog's best performance, or the best instance of the behavior that they perform. If you do that, it's easier to have your treats or whatever you're using kind of sorted, so you can grab a particular one on purpose instead of digging through a mixed bag for a particular treat. There is some evidence that if a behavior directly produces a reinforcer, that sort of training process might be faster or more effective than if the reinforcer is delivered just by a person, also called socially mediated reinforcement. So for the example paper I read most recently was looking at kids learning to open Tupperware type containers or little containers. And at least some of the kids acquired that skill of opening the container more quickly when they got an edible reward that was inside the container. They opened it, and sort of that action of opening the container directly produced access to the food inside, versus kids who, if they just opened the container, then the person working with them would hand them a piece of candy or something. So it can be advantageous to engineer your training session so that the behavior you want is sort of directly producing the reinforcer, or access to the reinforcer. And in terms of long-term maintenance of a behavior, it's also beneficial if you can use reinforcers that the dog is going to sort of naturally get from the situation when they do a particular behavior, versus having to be sort of always artificially added by you or the trainer. So it's just something, it's not always possible, but something to think about. Okay, now let's look at our cute little Easter egg hunt Scentwork game that Coco did for us, our team dog Coco. This is not a scientific experiment. This was just for fun. But we wanted to see if given a bunch of hides for Scentwork in a room, so a bunch of hidden treats, and this time we hid them in those little plastic eggs, like in this photo, would Coco like search more quickly or find the eggs more quickly, or would she search more persistently if the only foods in the eggs were like just kibble, or if all the food in the eggs were something really high value? I think Rachel used meatballs. Or what about if it was varied? So there's variation. There were no meatballs and no kibble, but a bunch of sort of medium value treats were distributed in different eggs. So let's look at, just for fun, let's look at Coco's. Okay, so, and you can try this at home if you do scent work and you're always looking for different games to do. Just keep in mind that if you use these plastic eggs, um, use caution if you have a dog who likes to ingest non-food items. Because a lot of these are small enough. A large dog could swallow them or at least break them, and the plastic could be sharp if broken. You'll see Rachel in the video sometimes helping get the treat out of the egg for Coco and then picking the egg up so it's out of the way. So in this first search, there's just kibble in the eggs, and it's interesting because here it looks like Coco, like there's kibble in that egg right there that Coco's sniffing, and she's just like, whatever. Now maybe she didn't really truly find it. She didn't know the kibble was there, but I find it interesting she didn't try to get at it. This is meatballs. This is the meatball search. So you see there, she is going straight for the eggs. I think that one's going under the sofa. So she's pretty active in this search and directly accessing the meatballs for the most part when she can. And then in the last search, this is what was in the egg. So you see there's only one type of treat in each egg, but there were 5 types used. So none of these were the super high value meatball, but also no kibble. So we've got an enthusiastic entrance into the area. And Coco wants what's in this egg, but she's used to sometimes getting help from mom. So she'll sometimes stop and look at mom to see if she'll get it for her, like open the egg. So to me, it looks like she's moving a little less quickly in the search. She's still engaged. And you can see this kind of thing is an easy thing to set up in your living room or whatever, and fun for the dog. So the results of our totally non-scientific experiment here, when we were just using kibble, Coco only found maybe 1 egg during the first couple minutes. She was moving more slowly. There were times where she would go right by an egg, but it wasn't clear whether she found it. She didn't try to get the food. And it took about 13 minutes for her to find all of the hides. I think there were like 8 to 10 hides in each of these searches. When meatballs were at stake, she found 6 of the eggs in the first 2 minutes, and it only took her 7 minutes to finish the search and find all the eggs. And with the medium value foods where we're having variety, we thought, oh, I wonder if variety will give us a faster search. It did not. She did find a few more eggs in the first couple minutes, but it still took her a full 13 minutes before she found that last egg. So that was just for fun. Like I said, if you try this, I'd love to hear how it goes. If you get like faster, if your dog finds the hides faster when you have varied foods, if you're using food, or varied toys if you're using toys, or if a single high value reinforcer gets you better results. All right. So I hope that gets you thinking about value and variety that you're using in your training sessions. These are the ways to find us online. If you're interested in scent work but don't know much about it and want to take a beginner course, this link at the bottom, dogkindtraining.com/scentwork, will take you to a link to get our beginner course that's self-paced online. All right, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you're inspired to do some sniffing games with your dog, or at least think about how you use your reinforcer in your next training session. If you have any questions or feedback, we'd love to hear it. You can email us at admin, ADMIN, at dogkindtraining.com, or you can just comment under this video and we'll get back to you. Thanks, everybody.